All right, so we're going to be taking a deep dive into some language learning advice.
Okay.
Um, you sent over this YouTube video all about how to become fluent in English.
Right.
And I got to say, some of this advice is pretty good, and some of it is a little bit surprising to me.
Huh.
So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, sure.
So I guess, like, first of all, like, what stood out to you the most?
Um, well, I think what really stood out to me was the emphasis on the why of learning English.
Okay.
It's not just like memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists.
Yeah.
It's like this whole thing about connecting with the wider world and unlocking these new opportunities for yourself.
Yeah, that is definitely something that they emphasize right at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And they make this really interesting point about English being like a global language.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like we all know that.
Yeah.
But they give some really good examples that really drive that point home.
Yeah, like, well, yeah.
You talk about like picturing yourself like you're trying to navigate a hotel in Japan or an airport in France.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, even just like basic English
Right.
becomes like this super valuable tool.
Right. And then beyond the travel aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
think about how much of the internet is in English.
That's true.
Websites, online courses, forums, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It just opens up to you once you have a grasp of the language.
Yeah, it's not just about traveling to different places. It's about expanding your world like digitally as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so there's like this whole personal growth aspect to it as well.
Right.
Um, and they talk about how fluency can boost your confidence,
Yeah.
not just in like your ability to communicate, but just in yourself in general.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's like you break through that language barrier and all of a sudden you feel empowered to do all these new things.
Yeah, you're not afraid to put yourself out there,
Exactly.
meet new people, try new things.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So we got the why down. English opens doors.
Uh-huh.
But now, like, I'm really interested to hear about these tips that they give for actually improving fluency,
Okay.
because some of them I was not expecting.
Like what?
Well, one of the things that surprised me was this idea of like starting simple.
Oh, yeah.
It's so tempting to like jump into like, the complex grammar.
Yeah, you want to sound sophisticated?
Right. And like use all these big words.
Right, right.
But the video makes this argument that like actually that could be counterproductive.
It can be, yeah, especially for beginners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do they recommend instead?
Well, they recommend focusing on mastering basic phrases in everyday language
Okay.
that you can actually use right away. So
Okay.
things like greetings, simple questions, even just like labeling objects around your house in English.
Okay.
It might seem overly simplistic,
Yeah.
but building that foundation of practical language, it actually makes a huge difference.
So it's like, don't try and build the skyscraper before you even have like the foundation laid.
Exactly. Yeah. Start with the building blocks.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of building blocks, I was really fascinated by this tip about talking to yourself in English.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know we all have that voice in our head,
Right.
but to actually like consciously switch that over to English,
It's a good exercise.
is that actually effective?
Oh, yeah. It can be surprisingly powerful.
Okay.
It's all about training your brain to think in English,
Okay.
not just translate from your native language. And when you're actually saying the words out loud,
Right.
you're practicing pronunciation, you're forcing yourself to form those sentences.
So it's like a mental workout for your speaking muscles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. But wouldn't that be exhausting though?
It can be.
To like constantly be thinking in English,
It takes effort.
especially like when you're first starting out.
Yeah, for sure. But, as you practice, it becomes less like translation and more like natural thought.
Right.
And the payoff is huge
Yeah.
because it helps you to avoid that mental delay, right?
When you're speaking, so your conversations flow more smoothly and naturally.
Instead of being stuck in translation mode.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you actually do that?
How do you start?
Yeah, do you just have to make a conscious effort, or are there specific exercises?
I mean, there are definitely strategies that you can use.
Yeah.
One simple exercise is to start with your daily routine.
Okay.
So like instead of thinking, I need to brush my teeth,
Right.
you think I need to brush my teeth in English.
Okay.
And then as you get more comfortable, you can expand to like describing your surroundings,
Uh-huh.
your thoughts, your plans for the day, all in English.
So it's like building up this immersive environment, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country.
Exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Another point that they made that I thought was interesting was this emphasis on simple sentences.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know it can be tempting to, like, try to impress people with your grammar
Right.
and, like, use big fancy
You want
words.
to show up?
Yeah. But they argue that simplicity is actually the key to fluency.
It really is, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, and I feel like that is kind of counterintuitive
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people associate fluency with, like, using a lot of complex grammar.
Right. You think you have to have these big, complicated sentences.
Right, exactly.
But that's not the case.
So why is simplicity so important?
Well, for one thing, it reduces your cognitive load.
Okay.
So you're not like struggling to remember all these complicated grammar rules.
Right.
You can focus on actually getting your message across clearly and confidently.
So it's about communication, not showing off.
Exactly.
Okay, but wouldn't that make your English sound really, like, basic?
Not at all.
Or, like, childish or something?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You know, native English speakers use simple sentences all the time.
That's true.
It's about being direct and effective.
Okay.
And plus, when you use simple sentences, it forces you to, like, choose your words carefully and be really concise.
So it's like improving your communication skills.
Exactly.
Really at the same time.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this technique that they mentioned that I'm really curious to hear more about,
Okay.
which is shadowing.
Oh, yeah.
What is shadowing?
So shadowing is basically a form of advanced mimicry.
Okay.
So you listen to a recording of a native English speaker.
Okay.
And that could be like a podcast, a song,
Correct.
a scene from a movie, whatever. And you just try to repeat it verbatim,
Okay.
you know, matching their tone, their speed, their pronunciation as closely as possible.
So it's like you're becoming their vocal shadow.
Exactly.
Okay, and what is the benefit of doing that?
Well, by shadowing, you're internalizing those natural rhythms and intonation patterns of English.
Okay.
Which is something that's really hard to learn from a textbook.
Right.
It's like you're absorbing the speaker's voice and their style and then making it your own.
Okay, but I imagine that takes a lot of concentration
It does.
and effort.
It does, but even a few minutes a day can make a big difference. And there are tons of resources online.
Okay.
You can find specific shadowing exercises for English learners, or you can just pick anything you like.
Right, like any audio or video that you find interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we got talking to yourself, thinking in English, keeping things simple, and now this whole shadowing technique.
Yeah,
There's a lot to unpack here.
there is a lot.
And then they also mentioned, like, some classic learning methods, too,
Like what?
like flashcards and journaling.
Oh, yeah, the tried and true methods.
Yeah, those are still good.
Oh, for sure.
They're like building vocabulary and improving your writing.
Yeah, flashcards are great for memorizing new words and definitions, and
Yeah.
journaling gives you a chance to practice writing in a more free-flowing way.
Yeah, and what I like about those methods is that you can really personalize them
You can,
to your own interests.
for sure.
Like, you can make flashcards about your hobbies
Exactly.
or write journal entries about things that you're passionate about,
Totally.
which makes it more fun.
Yeah, it keeps you engaged.
Yeah. And then they also talked about joining language groups or classes,
Yeah, that's a great one.
which I think is a really good idea.
Definitely.
Because it's one thing to practice speaking on your own,
Right.
but actually having conversations with people is a whole other level.
It is, yeah. You have to think on your feet
Right.
and deal with those unexpected questions.
Yeah. I bet that can be a little intimidating, though.
It can be, especially when you're not feeling very confident.
Right.
But everyone is there to learn and
That's right.
support each other.
Right.
So it's a safe space to make mistakes
Cool.
and get feedback.
Yeah. And it's also like a social thing.
It is a social thing.
You can meet people.
For sure, make new friends.
Yeah. And like maybe even practice English outside of class.
Exactly.
Like go see a movie together or something.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. But okay. So with all of these different techniques
Uh-huh.
and resources,
Yeah.
it can feel a little overwhelming.
It can.
Like, how do you even begin to create a learning plan?
Yeah, right. How do you fit it all in?
Exactly.
Well, that's where their final point comes in,
Okay.
which is the importance of consistency.
Right.
It's not about cramming for hours once a week.
Yeah.
It's about making English part of your daily routine,
Okay.
even if it's just for like 15 or 20 minutes each day.
Okay. So it's like small, consistent efforts
Let's go.
are more effective,
Wait.
way more
Yeah.
effective than like these big sporadic bursts.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And do they give any advice about how to create a daily routine?
They do. They actually offer like a sample daily routine
Okay.
that you can adapt to fit your own schedule and your own preferences.
Okay. So what does that look like?
So they suggest starting your day by reviewing vocabulary flashcards,
Right.
maybe while you're having your morning coffee.
Right.
Then in the afternoon, you could spend some time reading an article or a chapter of a book in English.
Okay.
And then in the evening, you could relax by watching a TV show or listening to a podcast in English.
Okay. So that sounds pretty manageable.
Yeah, it is.
And then I guess like on the weekends, you can try something a little more challenging.
Yeah, like having a conversation with a language partner.
Yeah, or going to an online class.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about finding a rhythm that works for you and then sticking with it.
Yeah.
And they emphasize the importance of celebrating those small wins along the way.
Oh, I like that.
Because it's so easy to get bogged down and think about what you haven't accomplished yet,
Right.
that you forget to appreciate how far you've come.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
So you have to recognize your progress no matter how small,
Yeah.
to stay motivated and keep that learning momentum going.
I love that.
It's really important.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've gone from the why of learning English to specific techniques for improving fluency to creating a sustainable routine.
Yeah, it's been a good discussion.
Yeah, and I think there's always more to explore.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm really interested in this whole shadowing thing. And I think it'd be helpful to like dive a little deeper into how to actually do it effectively.
Yeah. I agree. There's a lot more to say about shadowing.
Oh, okay. So why don't we do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
All right. So before we went to break, we were talking about this whole shadowing thing
Yeah.
and how effective it can be for improving pronunciation and fluency.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into like how to actually do it properly.
All right. So like the first step is you have to choose the right audio or video material.
Okay, so like what are we talking about here?
So it should be something that you actually enjoy listening to,
Okay.
spoken by a native English speaker with clear pronunciation.
Huh.
So things like podcasts, audiobooks, TED Talks.
Okay, so find something engaging.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And then for the actual shadowing process,
Yeah.
you can start with like short segments, maybe a sentence or two at a time,
Okay.
and just really focus on mimicking the speaker's tone, their rhythm, their intonation.
Okay, so like how they stress certain words,
Yeah,
exactly when they pause.
Uh-huh. Even how they breathe.
Okay, so it's like getting into the flow of their speech.
Exactly. You're trying to like embody their voice
Uh-huh.
and their style.
What about reading along with a transcript?
So having a transcript can be helpful,
Okay.
especially if you're working with more challenging material.
Okay.
But I think the real magic of shadowing happens when you're just relying on your ears. It forces you to pay attention to the nuances of spoken English.
So it's like a workout for your listening skills too.
Exactly.
Okay, so I see how shadowing would help with pronunciation,
Hmm.
but how does it improve fluency?
Well, when you're shadowing,
Yeah.
you're not just repeating words, you're internalizing those natural patterns of English speech.
Okay.
And this helps you speak more smoothly and confidently without having to think about every single word.
So it's about developing that like intuitive sense of how English flows.
Exactly.
Okay, but that sounds really hard,
It can be.
especially if you're like new to English.
It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for like making it easier?
Yeah, so one tip is to start slowly.
Oh.
You know, don't try to keep up with the speaker at their natural pace right away.
Right?
You can slow down the audio if you need to
Okay.
and just focus on accuracy first.
Okay, so accuracy over speed.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then as you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase the speed.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other advice for like movie shadowers?
Yeah, another helpful tip is to record yourself while you're shadowing.
Okay.
So you can listen back and identify any areas where you need to improve.
Okay.
Whether it's intonation, pacing, whatever.
So it's like having your own personal language coach?
Exactly.
Like, isn't that kind of embarrassing?
It can feel awkward at first,
Yeah.
but you know everyone makes mistakes when they're learning a language.
It's true.
The important thing is to be patient with yourself
Okay.
and just use those recordings as a tool for growth.
So it's about embracing the imperfections.
Exactly.
That's part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's talk about some other methods for improving fluency.
Okay.
The video mentions some classic ones like flashcards and journaling.
Yeah, those are tried and true methods.
Yeah, and I used to use flashcards a lot when I was learning Spanish in school,
Uh-huh.
but I have to admit sometimes it felt kind of tedious.
It can be a little bit repetitive.
Yeah. So any tips for making flashcards more engaging
Yeah, for sure.
and effective?
So one key is to make them visually appealing.
Okay.
Don't just write words and definitions on plain index cards.
Right.
Use different colors, images, even draw little pictures to help you remember the words.
So make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about journaling?
So journaling is great for improving your writing skills,
Yeah.
but it can be hard to find the motivation.
Yeah, like what am I supposed to write about?
Well, that's where finding a topic you're passionate about comes in.
Okay.
You know, don't feel like you have to write formal essays or anything like that.
Right.
Write about your hobbies, your dreams, your favorite movies, whatever sparks your interest.
So make it personal and meaningful.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guess if you're not sure what to write about, you could always look for like writing prompts online.
You could, or join an online writing community.
Yeah. There's so many resources available.
Tons of resources.
Yeah. And speaking of resources, the video also emphasizes the value of joining language groups or classes,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
both online and offline,
Bold.
which makes a lot of sense because
It does.
it's one thing to practice speaking on your own, but to actually have conversations with other people is a whole other level.
It is. It's like real-time communication.
Yeah.
You have to deal with unexpected questions. You have to learn to express yourself spontaneously.
I bet that can be intimidating, though.
It can be, especially when you're not confident in your abilities.
Right.
But remember, everyone in that group or in that class is there to learn and
That's,
support each other.
yeah. It's a safe space
It is.
to make mistakes and ask questions.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's also like a social thing, too.
It is, yeah, for sure. You can connect with people from different cultures, make new friends.
Yeah. And maybe even practice your English outside of the class.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So the video's final point is about creating a routine for success.
Oh, yeah, the importance of consistency.
Yeah. We touched on this earlier,
Oh, we did.
but it's worth repeating
It is so crucial.
because it's so important.
Yeah,
So it's not about like cramming everything in at once.
right.
It's about making English part of your daily life.
Exactly, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Okay, so do they give any like specific guidance on how to actually create a daily routine?
Yeah, they do. They actually offer like a sample routine that you can adapt to your own preferences.
Okay, what does that look like?
So they suggest starting your day by reviewing some vocabulary flashcards,
Okay.
maybe while you're having your morning coffee.
Right.
Then in the afternoon, you could spend some time reading an article or a chapter of a book. And in the evening, you could unwind by watching a TV show or listening to a podcast.
Okay, so it's like spreading it out throughout the day,
Exactly.
finding those little pockets of time.
And the key is to choose activities that you enjoy.
Okay, so if you like music,
Yeah.
listen to some English songs.
Exactly. Or if you're a movie buff, watch a film in English.
Okay,
You know, whatever keeps you engaged and having fun.
so the goal is to make it like an enjoyable part of your life.
Yeah, not a chore.
And I like that approach because it seems sustainable.
It is.
You're not burning yourself out.
Exactly. You're building a habit.
Yeah, okay. And they also talk about celebrating small wins,
Yeah, they do.
which I think is really important.
It is.
Because it's so easy to focus on like what you haven't accomplished yet.
Right, you get discouraged.
Yeah, and you forget to like appreciate how far you've come.
So you have to acknowledge those small victories and build on them.
Okay, so it's about recognizing progress.
Yes.
No matter how small. Yeah, and I guess surrounding yourself with like positive, supportive people can also help.
It can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Find language partners, teachers, online communities
Okay.
that encourage you and uplift you.
Okay.
And be kind to yourself.
Yeah,
Learning a language takes time.
it does.
There are going to be days when you feel frustrated or discouraged.
Right.
And that's okay. Just keep reminding yourself why you started this journey.
Yeah.
And remember that every step you take brings you closer to your goal.
It's about the long game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so this has been a really insightful conversation.
It has.
We've gone from like the nitty-gritty of shadowing and flashcards to the importance of mindset and community.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
Yeah. And I think this sets us up perfectly for our final discussion point,
Okay.
which is how English fluency can really transform your life.
I like it.
But before we get into that,
Yeah.
I think we need to take a quick break. Okay, sounds good. So we were talking about all the ways that becoming fluent in English can like transform your life.
Yeah, it's not just about like learning a new skill.
Right.
It's about like opening these doors to new experiences and connections and opportunities.
Exactly. It's like getting a key to a whole new world.
Yeah. But I think it can be hard to visualize those possibilities when you're still like in the early stages of learning.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, let's get specific. What are some tangible ways that English fluency can transform someone's life?
Well, okay, so first of all, think about your career.
Okay.
Like in today's globalized economy, English is often the language of business and technology and innovation.
Right.
So being fluent can open up all these job
Okay,
opportunities.
so it's not just about like getting a job at like a big international company.
Right.
It's about being able to communicate effectively
Exactly.
with colleagues and clients and partners from all over the world.
Yeah, and that can give you a real edge.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and it's not just about like career advancement either.
No, it's about personal growth too.
Totally.
Like learning a new language can really challenge you intellectually.
It does.
It can expand your worldview.
It can.
It can make you more open-minded,
Oh,
more adaptable.
for sure.
It's like stretching your brain muscles
Exactly.
and like breaking down those mental barriers.
Yeah, and I think that sense of accomplishment that you get from mastering a new language can really boost your confidence in other areas of your life too.
Yeah, like it's a reminder that you're capable of learning new things,
Exactly.
growing and achieving your goals.
Yeah, you can do hard things.
Yeah, and then there's like the social benefits too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like English is the language that connects people from all over the world.
It is.
So suddenly you can have these conversations with people from different cultures and backgrounds.
Learn about their perspectives.
Yeah.
Build friendships that span continents.
Yeah, imagine like traveling to a new country
Yeah.
and being able to talk to the locals.
Right. Not just rely on a phrase book.
Yeah.
For like pointing and gesturing.
Yeah, it's like taking your travel experiences to a whole new level.
It's about those authentic interactions
Yeah.
that really make travel so enriching.
Yeah, and beyond those face-to-face conversations, like English fluency opens up this whole world of online communities and forums and resources
Oh, yeah, so many resources.
that you wouldn't have access to otherwise.
That's true.
Like think about all the amazing blogs and podcasts
Yeah.
and online courses that are primarily in English. All of a sudden you have access to this wealth of knowledge and inspiration.
It's like having a key to a global library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've got career opportunities, personal growth, travel adventures, access to all these online resources.
Yeah.
The possibilities really are endless.
They are, and I think that's what makes this video so inspiring.
Yeah.
It doesn't just teach you how to learn English.
Right.
It shows you how fluency can transform your life.
It paints a picture
Yeah.
of what's possible.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I have one final question for you, dear listener.
Okay.
Imagine yourself a year from now.
Okay.
You're speaking English confidently.
Uh-huh.
What new doors have opened for you?
Yeah, what exciting experiences have you had?
What dreams have you pursued that once seemed out of reach?
It's really exciting to think about.
Take a moment to just envision that future self,
Yeah.
fluent and empowered,
Yeah.
and let that vision motivate you on your language learning journey.
It's a powerful motivator.
Yeah, remember every step you take,
Uh-huh.
every word you learn,
Yeah.
every conversation you have brings you closer to that vision.
It does.
And we're here to support you every step of the way.
We are.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for listening.
into the transformative power of English fluency.
Until next time, happy language learning.